How did the Dallas Mavericks pull off, then almost not pull off, then pull off the win against the Lakers in LA? Should Scott Foster ever ref a Chris Paul game ever again? And Gregg Popovich, not for the booze. We'll talk about all of that and more on today's Locked On NBA. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On NBA your first listen today, where the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and comment anything below. Do you think Scott Foster should ever ref a Chris Paul game ever again? Let me know in the comment section. And joining me, as always on a Thursday, host of Locked On Bulls. What you got for me, Pat the Designer?
Hold on a sec, Nick. Hey, we're better than this. We're better than this.
This is not us.
No, this is not us.
This is not us.
This is not. Yes, take this other mic away. This is not us. We're better than this, people. We're not better than this. Why does he think they're better than this?
Pat literally picked up another, $500 microphone and it was not plugged in.
Was that a flex? I'm sorry. Was that a slight flex? A little flex. Had a studio.
A second one that he wasn't using. We'll talk about Gregg Popovich not wanting the booze for Kawhi Leonard. We'll talk about it in our Count It Up segment. We'll talk about Chris Paul and Scott Foster. They get in again. Get a room, guys. I mean, can we figure this out? Get a therapist. Sit down on the couch. I need couples counseling is what they need right now. But I want to start here, Pat. Maybe the best game of the night.
Yeah.
Mavs, Lakers. Didn't seem like it was going to be the best game of the night. Mavs held a 20-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And then slowly but surely, LeBron, Austin Reeves, the Lakers chip away. The Lakers held a 1-point lead or 2-point lead with 1:16 left. Luka and the Mavericks didn't score a field goal for the first 8 minutes of the quarter.
Yeah.
8 minutes.
LeBron
and the Lakers held a 2-point lead with 1:16 left. Luka kicks over to Kyrie. He hits a three, bails everybody out, hits some free throws at the end to make it 104-101. Oh my goodness. This game, if you're listening from the Mavericks perspective, and if you want to listen to Locked On Mavs, you can listen to ours. This game is one where you go, I don't know how to feel after a game like this. Do you feel better that you just pulled out the win and you won? Because this whole season for the Mavericks have they proven that they can raise their floor? We're not sure the ceiling has been raised because of the moves that they've made, right? We still feel like Luka and Kyrie are at a certain level, but everybody else around them, are they going to allow them to get to a certain level? Are they going to win a playoff series? Are they going to be a team that, can get farther in the playoffs? I don't know, but how much have they raised their floor? In this game, Lakers on the second night of a back-to-back. The Mavericks had 2 days off. They were in LA. How can they raise their floor and win a game like this and basically take care of business in a game like this? And they had, for 3 quarters, they played really good. You felt really good about them. It's the best defense they've played all year. 20-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, it just gets chipped away by the one thing you think wouldn't leave this Mavericks team, and that is offense. They could not score, could not hit a field goal for the first 8 minutes. It was just a brutal thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as somebody who covers the Chicago Bulls who have scored 33 points in a half twice, I know something about brutal offense there, Nick. And no, the fourth quarter, it felt discombobulated. I think that's the perfect word to use, right? It felt like everyone was waiting for somebody to step up.
Yes.
For the Dallas Mavericks. Who's going to counter what LeBron's doing? LeBron James, 39 years old, absolutely going out there. And I mean, it looked like vintage LeBron for a quarter of basketball, where it was just like, oh, wow, he's still 260 pounds and nobody in the world can stand in front of him and stop him. I was looking for Luka to be that guy. And I guess to Luka's credit, right, he tried to be that guy. His shot was just off. And then to me, that is the moment where I was sitting there in the fourth quarter and I was like, J Kidd, you got to draw up something that gets Kyrie Irving more involved in this fourth quarter. He needs to have the basketball in his hands a lot more, because there's nobody on the Lakers who can stand in front of Kyrie for more than 6 seconds, right?
Max Christie is having nightmares right now thinking about trying to guard Kyrie in this game.
Absolutely. And so I looked at it from the Mavs perspective, and watching that fourth quarter and going down, I felt like yes, of course, the offense disappearing. You want to see Luka get it going. You want to see something draw up. But I really thought it was a failure on Jason Kidd's part not to go, hey, Luka, listen, it's not falling right now. We've got another guy on this team that absolutely can do it. They have nobody who can defend him. Let's go through Kyrie in this fourth quarter. Let's put this thing away. Now it ends up working out for you, right? Sometimes you need little things like this to put you over the hump. You get the ball to Kyrie Irving one time on a three-point shot. He knocks it down. It puts you ahead. And all of a sudden you're talking about coming out of this thing with a win. But I looked at it and sometimes you need that luck, but you also need to learn from this. In moments like this, I need to see Jason Kidd not be, what's the sound drop? I'm watching just like you guys are.
I'm not playing. I'm watching just like you guys.
No. How about you coach a little bit in that fourth quarter? That's what I want to see from Jason Kidd.
I'm incredibly proud of you for bringing up that drop. I was going to do the same thing because that drop,
I'm not playing. I'm watching just like you guys.
came from a question I asked him last season when he did not call a timeout and the other team went on like a 15-0 run.
Yeah, 16-2 run, by the way.
Right, which is almost the same thing in this one. They went on a 15-0 run last year, and he didn't call a timeout to stop it or do anything like that. And that, it came from, hey, I'm not playing. I'm watching just like you guys. I can't affect the game. And basically kind of giving up and saying that the coaching position in the NBA can't affect the game as much as the players can, obviously. And Jason Kidd is a former player, maybe feels that differently than some of us, or maybe feels that differently than a coach that's been a lifer coach, right? That's only been a coach in his career. And so that's been an interesting thing. He didn't call a timeout until like 2 minutes and 21 when the Lakers were only down 2 at that point. And so it was just a weird thing. I put it on Jason Kidd too. If they lost that game, I was going to go in on Jason Kidd. And I did to a degree on Locked On Mavs and kind of talked about how he didn't call a timeout, didn't run anything else. And I have to go in on Luka too, because the fourth quarter was, you said discombobulated. I'm going to go like a step worse. It was lackadaisical. Yeah. Both using $10 words.
They felt like it felt like they were like, we're up 20. We're up 18.
We're up 20. Their second
16.
night of a back-to-back. We just lost the second night of a back-to-back. Like, oh, they're going to feel it like we did, and we'll just coast this one. Everything's going well. Guys are playing well. Other guys like Josh Green and Kyrie are stepping up. It'll work. And so Luka was just settling. And this is what happens in his career, where he settles for shots. He hasn't been settling for the step-back threes as often as he was last year, which is why he's been more efficient and better from three. But 0 of 3 from 3 in the fourth quarter, 1 of 7 from the field overall in the fourth quarter. Got to the free throw line twice, but and hit all of those, which was great. But man, it just felt like he was giving the game away, because the Mavericks defense was good in this game, but it's not good enough for them to stop scoring.
I feel like
they just have to keep scoring.
I feel like what Jason Kidd is waiting for with Luka is the moment where he has, right? Because again, we've talked about this a couple of times on Locked On NBA, and we've talked about Jason Kidd. Jay Kidd wanted the reins off of him. Don't overcoach me. Let me do what I'm doing on the floor.
100%.
I feel like Jay Kidd looks at Luka and says, in the fourth quarter, when you realize your shot's not falling, in your brain, it should automatically go, I need to start passing more. 1 assist from Luka in the fourth quarter, where in a game where he assisted the basketball
to Kyrie. The last one, the game winner.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? Like in a game where he passed the ball very, very well, elite level passing today from Luka Doncic, all until that fourth quarter, where I just like, that's the moment where Jay Kidd's got to be a little bit of a coach again and just go, hey, I get it. I want you to do your own thing, but you see that guy over there? He shoots really well. Let's get him the ball a little bit. I don't know. I need to see more from Jay Kidd.
Here's the thing.
I don't always tell you guys the truth.
I've been asking for this from Jason Kidd since he got here. Can he speak to Luka? Is he the one that can get into Luka's ear and take him to that next level? Because Luka needs somebody to help him get to that next level and help him get through some of this stuff like this. And he's had a really bad game earlier this season, the worst that he's had. And now he's had this quarter where it's one of the worst quarters I've ever seen from him. And where does Jason Kidd's role fall into that? Does he want to be the hands off, I'm going to wipe my hands of this clean and say, hey, I put everything in front of him, I gave him the tools and all that, and he just didn't take it? Or is he going to be a little bit more involved and try and get Luka out? Because the reason why the Mavericks hired him is because players love him. LeBron, in this game, was one that wanted him to be the coach of the Lakers. Yeah. And it didn't happen. So it's just one of these. But you end it, and the Mavs won, right? And that's the difference between last season for the Mavericks and this season from the Mavericks, is that they come away with wins like this. They're now, 7-1 in clutch games this season so far. They've won these games because their clutch offense has been better. They can create shots. They can create shots whenever. And Luke and Kyrie are on a better, like on the same page in the clutch. They run better offense. They do all that. And so when it comes down to it, when they have to actually like sit up in their chair and go, all right, let's run some actual real plays and let's actually get Kyrie an open three so he can hit it and we can win this game and then get intentionally fouled and then win it. And so they can do that kind of stuff. But it's when it gets bogged down and when Luka's just does the ISO thing and they don't create stuff and they don't push and fast break. One of the reasons why they were in this, had a big lead in this game. They had 15 fast break points in the first half. That's like, I think that's the most they've had in the first half this season. They don't push the ball out, but they've been trying a lot this season. That's been a big emphasis from everybody all through training camp, all through the preseason and all that, is to push the pace. And then they just went away from it for sure in the fourth quarter. And yes, you got to give credit to LeBron. He was excellent. Austin Reeves was good in this one. Jason Kidd decided to not play Josh Green in the fourth quarter, and Josh Green had been really good against Austin Reeves, so that one doesn't make sense. And then the Mavericks were without Derek Lively in the fourth quarter, and Lively had been really good. It's wild how important he is for this team.
He went down hard, man.
I'm telling all you guys.
When he hit the floor, I was like, oh man, like those are the worst when you're like trying to catch yourself on the rim and the fingers just don't grab. Those are the injuries that you worry the most about because it almost looked like he caught himself enough, but then you worry about the wrist, you worry about, the tailbone, all of that. So
those are the worst ones. You felt those where you can't hold on to the rim long enough and then you fall on your back.
Where's Dwight?
Those are the ones where you know that feeling when you can't hold on to the rim.
Oh yeah, I'm for sure. Listen. A little gut now. I used to be able to get up there. You know what I mean? And I've definitely let go. The fingers slipped off, and you was like, "Oh no!" You literally go, "Uh-oh." There's nothing to save me now but the ground. Uh-oh. Oh yeah.
Hey, that's what I say when I missed the rim because I didn't dunk. I didn't get it down.
We're still talking about basketball, right? We're still. You okay there?
Hey, right? I know we're recording this after dark, but it will be heard by people in the early morning.
Locked on NBA after dark.
Maybe their families around them. Oh my God.
I need a recovery beer.
We'll talk about Scott Foster and Chris Paul coming up. Should Scott Foster ever ref a Chris Paul game again? We'll talk about that coming up. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA, being part of the show, and every dayer listening every day. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. You don't want to pay for those subscriptions anymore? Boom, just watch on YouTube. You can watch. You're probably watching us on there right now. We appreciate everybody doing that. We have a local show that covers your team every day. Check the link in the description to find all of them on the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So many sports. I put it on in my office.
Yeah.
It's just like Locked On Pac-12, Locked On NFL Draft, Locked On.
It's a hard switch. I'm not going to lie. Like you'll go from like listening to Locked On Bulls and it'll be like Locked On Packers. You're like, wait a minute now.
Oh my gosh. But there's something for everybody.
Oh yeah.
It's a tasting menu, right? Like it's a flight. It's a beer flight.
It's a beer flight. That's a great way to describe it. Like you get a little bit of everything. It keeps you informed on everything.
And then you find one in the middle and you're like, oh, I like this one. Hefeweizen. Like I like this one. I'm in. All right. Chris Paul and Scott Foster. They got beef. They got history. We know this. I don't think he's won a playoff game that Scott Foster's ref. This has been a thing. He is a part of the Golden State Warriors, and they lose tonight 115 to 123. And in this game,
Scott Foster's fault. Yeah, they weren't getting cooked well before that. That was all Scott Foster.
It's not really the point of this, but Chris Paul and Scott Foster get into it, and it's been a thing that they've talked about. We talked about forever, and they get into it, and Scott Foster looks at him and says, "This is what you always do to me." And then Chris Paul keeps going. He says, "Stop!" He does the whole thing like, "Oh, you better stop," and then he doesn't stop. Chris Paul keeps yapping at him, and then Scott Foster throws him out. So, just another Scott Foster Chris Paul game. But then after the game, Chris Paul says this.
Yeah, it's personal. Yeah, we had a situation some years ago, and it's personal. You know what I mean? Like the league everybody knows. It's been a meeting and all that, and it's just a situation with my son, and so Yeah, so I'm okay with a ref talking, saying whatever, saying just don't use a tech to get your point across. You know what I mean? So
it's a situation with his son, a situation that he had before, and then Kendra Andrews of ESPN reported that, he says there was a situation with his son, and there was a meeting while he was with the Clippers with himself, Scott Foster, Doc Rivers, and Chris Paul's dad. And like it just seems like a weird thing where it's a personal matter between him and Scott Foster. And honestly, like I'm kind of with Chris Paul that it does feel like Scott Foster does take this to a level where it seems personal to him too, and he's using a tech in the personal means. And that's why I start to think, well, should he ever ref a Chris Paul game again because of this thing?
Let me play devil's advocate here. This all goes down. Everything happens, right? Chris Paul ends up getting ejected from this game in a fashion that a lot of players would get ejected from a game, right? Where you're sitting there and you're arguing with a ref, and the ref says, all right, you're done. That's enough. You've said your piece, blah, blah, blah. You keep arguing, tech. You keep arguing, tech. I've seen players that aren't Chris Paul get thrown out for that.
Everybody but Draymond.
Draymond just talks. Yeah, I mean, he gets to do whatever he wants to do. But, ridiculous. Like the situation to me where I see Scott Foster go, you always do this to me, tells me that in Scott Foster's mind, at least, this is a situation where it's a lose-lose situation for him. One, he's a ref, so everybody's against the ref, right? Unless I don't think he's a great ref.
Who was the ref last week that said, anytime I make a call, somebody is mad at me?
Facts, right? Like every time you make a call, somebody's going to be mad at you. So one, he's a ref. Two, Chris Paul is one of the most beloved players in the NBA. Whatever he says is going to go. Scott Foster isn't going to go. I'm talking about by fans. Scott Foster isn't going to go to
he wasn't even loved by he wasn't even loved by the fans of the team he's playing for. He was actually hated by the fans of the team he's playing for. Anyway,
well, yeah, when you've gone against them, right? But I think everybody generally looks at Chris Paul and goes, one of the best point guards of all time, blah blah. Puts him in the rafters and all of that, right? Like on the Scott Foster side of this, I wonder if there's a little bit of like, oh, you're going to play this game again, so you get to play the victim and you get to go out there, and now you bring the situation up. Now I look bad. Now it's got something to do with your son. I'm not saying that none of those things happened, but in this situation, in this singular situation, and Scott Foster's been in the wrong in a lot of these situations. In this singular situation, he gave him the same amount of leeway that I see a ton of other players get. He told him, you're done, Chris. You're done. Chris wasn't done, and he teched him up, and then he got him out of the game.
So you have no problem with Scott Foster reffing Chris Paul games? Even if his teams continue to lose them, he continues to get ejected in them.
Listen, is it Scott Foster's job to be a referee? He's going to get these games. He's one of the top referees in the NBA now, whether we agree with that or not, right? Like, age-wise and percentage-wise on the percentage of these calls, which I need an independent study some of these, because it's like I remember looking up the ref numbers last year for like refs going up against the Bulls. No, there's real numbers. I remember looking them up for refs going up against the Bulls, and I was like, there's no way that these guys are the best refs the Bulls get, because we haven't won a single game with any of them. But it is what it is, right? Like,
do you win games without them? Like,
he's a ref. Hey, sometimes you got to. He's a ref. He's gonna be a ref in Chris Paul games. I'm not singling out Chris Paul for, oh, you get special treatment. You don't have to deal with Scott Foster.
Here's the thing, and I would normally just be like, all right, just run it, like, hey, everyone be professional, and let's just run with it, and it'll be fine. But Brendan Clean, Locked On Suns, said this, and he said, it's honestly crazy the NBA is cool with one of its premier refs having a visible and public beef with a future Hall of Famer. And to me, that's where I'm like, all right, it's very true. We all know this. Soon as Warriors fans or whatever team Chris Paul's on, soon as they see Scott Foster on the list of refs, you can go to like the NBA officiating Twitter, and they will tweet it out or whatever. As soon as you know that, you're like, all right, we're probably going to lose this game. He's probably going to get ejected. Some chicanery is probably going to happen. And like, why wouldn't the NBA just try to avoid that? Right? You're a league for entertainment. It doesn't have to be this thing where it's like, all right, well, it's got to be fair now. He's got to ref all the game. Like, just avoid it. Just avoid it, because now we're talking about this. And we're not talking about the Suns getting the win. We're not talking about the Warriors, without Draymond and then Chris Paul getting ejected. We're not talking about the actual basketball of it. And what was Silver's whole thing is like, we want to talk about the basketball. when he was on with JJ Redick last week. It's like, all right, let's get back to basketball. This is not a thing that's back to basketball. Now everyone's tweeting about this. Everyone's talking about this. It's Scott Foster, Chris Paul. It's Scott Foster, Chris Paul. The guy played 16 minutes in this game. Like, was not part of this at all.
Well, I mean, they also gave up 37 points in the second quarter. So
we're not talking about that.
Probably wouldn't have been part of it anyway. But I mean, like, I don't know, man. Like, yes, there's a visible beef. Yes, but like, I also look at Chris Paul and say, if you know you have that beef, leave him alone. Right? Like, if you know that issue is there, if you know that it might escalate to that, like, listen, he's one of the smartest players in the NBA. I'm not going to sit here and assume that all of a sudden he's just like, oh, I can do whatever I want because I'm Chris Paul and I know that you're not going to kick me out. Oh, you kicked me out? Darn it. How did that happen? Like, come on. Like, what do we like?
But he does these things against other refs too. He just doesn't get away with it against Scott Foster.
You start looking for it. Right. And I think Chris Paul is to the point now where he's like, I got a Scott Foster game coming up. Let's make something out of it.
Let us know in the comment section. Should Scott Foster ever ref a Chris Paul game again? Coming up, it's our segment, Count It Up, where we count out the most interesting and fun things in the NBA, including Gregg Popovich. That's right. We got a new intro. We'll talk about that. Listen,
that might be worse than the money.
Coming up. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA, being part of this show and all that. We've got a daily show that covers your team every day. Go check it out in the link in the description of this podcast to find one that covers your team. I host Locked On Mavericks. Pat hosts Locked On Bulls. It's now time. I have not shown Pat this at all. I threw it together in the middle of the games today as I was like, we need a new Count It Up intro. You ready?
No, but let's do it.
Big chicken, baby. Zion Williamson and porn star.
Take that for that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
Okay. All right. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
I got your drop in there too. I got your drop in there. I got your drop in there.
No, it was the singular count it up. That was like, oh no, what did he do? But it all together, not a bad project. I don't know if I'm a fan because it's not J. Cole, but it's pretty good.
I know we couldn't play that anymore.
In favor of it.
This is royalty free and
royalty free for sure.
And usable.
Did somebody on Fiverr do that, or did you actually edit that music together?
No, the music is part of our library that we have. It's like a whole library, and I went through a bunch of tracks. Gregg Popovich was upset with Spurs fans. They were booing Kawhi Leonard anytime he got the ball. He was on the free throw line, and Gregg Popovich walks up to the microphone, picks up the microphone, and says, "Can we stop all the booing and let these guys play? It's got no class. It's not who we are. Stop all the booing." And then immediately after, the Spurs fans booed louder than they were before. People thought it was a gag. They thought that Gregg Popovich and Kawhi Leonard were in on it, but it was just literally Gregg Popovich saying, "Stop booing Kawhi Leonard every time he gets the ball." My question is,
count it up.
Are you into it or are you not into it?
I hate when people tell people how to fan. I don't like Kawhi Leonard because he once was a part of our team, and I felt like he abandoned our team.
He definitely did.
Boo. Like, guess what? I would boo. Whatever sport it is now. Listen, is he a part of a great championship squad? Is maybe one day everything will be fine? Yeah, but that doesn't change the feelings I had that if I'm a Spurs fan, I have right now, right? And at the end of the day, like, who are you to tell people how that they should cheer for a team or boo a team, right? When your team was underperforming and they booed you, you didn't have a problem then. When your team was winning what 24 games or 25 games in a season, and you were getting booed on the floor. It wasn't then, but now Kawhi Leonard's back. Like it felt like. And listen, I love Pop. Pop's one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not going to go down as the greatest coach of all time. But I mean, listen, at the end of the day, that was old man get off my lawn territory, and it almost felt like I'm trying to make friends with the guy that left us again. I love Kawhi, and his time and with the Clippers may come to
Kawhi
an end
wants to
sooner
leave
than later. Yeah, you never know. Like, but Pop planting a seed day, like that felt like we're good here. We respect our players. To me,
it felt like This guy won a finals MVP with us. I've been to war with this guy. Like, why are we treating him like this? I understand being upset at first, but we're still doing this. Like, he's on a second team. He's been with the Clippers for what, 4 or 5 years now at this point? Like, at this point, you'd think it would be over the booing every time he gets the ball. And so I kind of understand it from Pop. The thing is, even Gregg Popovich, the most respected coach, maybe the most respected figure on one single team throughout all of the NBA, like, maybe is LeBron? LeBron's probably higher than him on the Lakers. And then who else? Like a singular figure being respected by that organization.
Pop might be it because
it's probably Pop.
It's probably Pop because nobody else could have went and grabbed the mic.
Like, let's say take all 30 fan bases. Who's the one person that could go to the fan base and be like, "Hey, stop doing something," like doing a specific thing, right?
Yeah,
It's probably Pop, the only one that could do this. And
Coach
still,
Cage,
nobody listened to him at all. And the boos got louder because, like you said, don't tell me how to fan. Don't tell me how to feel with this because I hate Kawhi Leonard and I don't want Kawhi Leonard to do well. And I enjoy booing. Booing is so fun. I go to Dallas Wings games all the time. I boo every single opposing team, and I love it. And I enjoy it so much.
And he plays against us. Like Pop was acting like he was the sixth man off of the bench.
Stop booing Wemby. Stop booing Jeremy Sohan.
You know what that felt like? That felt like, remember when Coach Krzyzewski like ran over to the student section to tell them to stop chanting against who was the coach that left their staff and to go to, and he was just like, he's one of us, stop it. No, like
Krzyzewski's probably one too, but
that literally felt like Pop's probably got 2 or 3 more years left in this start counting down now. Coach K was gone probably 2 years after that.
Pop did a good thing in Dirk's last game where he like took a timeout and let everybody appreciate Dirk when he came out. Like that was a good thing. He didn't take the mic and was like, everyone should respect this man.
Everyone cheer Dirk.
Gregg Popovich. Let us know in the comment section. I'm curious what people think about the booing. Tell me how to boo or don't tell me how to boo and all that. I'm interested in this one. The NBA is requiring LeMelo Ball to cover a tattoo below his left ear that the league insists violates rules against exposing commercial logos on players' bodies, a policy that sources close to Ball contend has been infrequently enforced. So there's a tattoo with like LF in the font that's his logo for his clothing company. My question is,
Count it up.
Should the NBA make him do this, or because it's a tattoo and he kind of like skirted the rules on this, do you think LeMelo should be able to get away with it?
Somebody did this before. Who used to wear a Band-Aid all the time?
Nelly?
Well, that too. No, it wasn't a great player. But somebody used to have to do the same thing where they had to wear a Band-Aid to cover up a logo. I mean, it is what it is. Listen, like that's a weird one. It's a weird thing to be upset about. Like LeMelo Ball's promoting his brand, like it's a tattoo of his brand on him.
Smart on his part though to get that brand, the brand logo out there because it's shown in every close-up that he ever has.
Well, no, listen, smart on him because the NBA just banned it. Now everybody's got to go figure out what the heck this brand logo is because who's looking at LeMelo Ball's neck? Good job, NBA, for the free promotion. No one has noticed this tattoo. You added a tattoo to a sea of tattoos. I guarantee you no fan went, oh, that's new. Like I don't know, man. That's a weird one. How big is it? Is it like massive?
No, it's like I don't know, silver dollar sized. Do people have silver dollars anymore?
I don't know, but apparently if you have $2 bills,
tennis ball size,
worth a lot of more. Oh, tennis ball size? That's a very different than a silver dollar.
I don't know. It's like in between them.
Were you going silver dollar pancakes on that? That was a very big silver dollar you held up there, brother.
Okay, a White Castle slider sized.
That's a big logo. It's a big logo.
It's pretty big, and it's red too, so it like stands out.
I'm gonna have to look at that one, but yeah, I mean, listen, I think great job by his father's LeVar Ball. We know he knows how to market.
Never lost.
Oh God, you lost right there. That's hilarious.
That is so funny.
That is so funny that never lost happened right as your camera went out on that one. That is perfect.
The ghost of Lamar Ball just found me.
LeVar said, "Oh, you done lost. Welcome back."
That's amazing. I don't know why my OBS just crashed. Last one here with LeMelo. There's so many other ones I want to get. I wanted
So
to talk
many
about
with LeMelo.
I wanted to talk about Jordan Poole walking the dog down the court when the shot clock wasn't going down. I wanted to talk about KD's tweet about gambling. I wanted to talk about DeAndre Ayton's screens that he set on that one play that was the Shaq to the Fool. But I do want to talk about this LeMelo one because LeMelo Ball was asked what his favorite Thanksgiving food is after a game. This is what he had to say live on the air on Bally Sports.
And last question for you, LeMelo. 3 days off, Thanksgiving tomorrow. What's your favorite Thanksgiving dish?
I mean, I got the chicken, the turkey, ham. Shit, what else I'm with? Nah, that's about it. Maybe some other shit.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Cobbler.
Okay.
Yeah, the dessert. Yeah.
Okay.
My girl be making that. Be smacking for sure.
Okay. Have a good Thanksgiving. Thanks so much,
You
LeMelo.
ass, love.
My question to you is,
Count it up.
what's the best Thanksgiving food?
I'm a mac and cheese snob. I've also found out apparently through certain coworkers who are of a different skin complexion that macaroni and cheese
Than me or than you?
No, than me. Well, kind of. Only half of me, right? Only half of me. That macaroni and cheese is not a go-to at every Thanksgiving.
Wow. Should be.
I did not know this. Apparently, people of the caucus persuasion do not do macaroni and cheese. And the reason why.
What side of the southern northern border you are? Because my family growing up in Pennsylvania and Michigan did not. But
I can see that. I can see that being a South versus North thing on that. Sure. And I literally asked, I said, why? And the response was, we just don't do it well. And that's the greatest response ever. It's just like,
if you don't,
it's just not a part of us. And so we left it off the table.
Why don't we have peanut butter and jelly on Thanksgiving? Well, because we don't.
We just don't do it well. That was the greatest response ever that they could have given me.
If you don't, I like that LeMelo had to come back with the peach cobbler thing and was like, hey.
Can't go wrong with cobbler. Cobbler's great. I'm a sweet potato pie guy.
I've recently got into like the perfect Thanksgiving bite. And I feel like the perfect Thanksgiving bite has what in it? It has turkey. The cranberry sauce is very important. Stuffing, important.
You can keep your stuffing.
But with the bite, it's got to come with the bite.
Cool with the stuffing.
No stuffing?
I'm cool with the stuffing.
Stuffing is the dumbest food.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but on Thanksgiving, we're having it.
Now, see, again, cultural differences, black household, dressing. Dressing is fire.
That's the same thing. We're talking about the same thing.
No. Dressing, very different than stuffing. Dressing has a moistness to it. Stuffing is just dry giblets that were stuck inside of that turkey. Dressing hit a little different. You know what I mean?
We're talking about the same thing, but it's like we're talking about Kraft mac and cheese versus like homemade mac and cheese.
Yeah,
like we're
very different things there, Nick. So very different things there, brother.
Dressing
and that's why it's not on the table.
But it's in the perfect bite. The dressing, the turkey, all right. Cranberry sauce, maybe some mashed potatoes, maybe like a green bean or something in there.
Perfect bite. Have you seen the new like people are coming out with like the giant pot pies of everything already in it? Ooh, I'm intrigued by this.
No, I need that.
It's basically like a pot pie crust, turkeys inside, greens, mac and cheese, all of that, and then they throw that over the top, bake it on. Oh man, I'm intrigued by that.
They do that at like Witch, where you can have a Thanksgiving feast like sandwich, where you can like have all the stuff in it. Like that I'm all right with. That'd be good.
Dangerous game.
We know what LeMelo wants, guys. Check out the rest of the shows. Cross Locked On. We'll have a show tomorrow on Locked On NBA for you as well. I think Wes Goldberg and Adam Mars, they probably already recorded it. So it should be in your feeds. Yeah. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA.
Bye-bye.
Boom!
Tattoo's actually pretty big.
Not muted yet.
Pause.